Hello everyone and welcome to the first One Piece event that we're having in OCE. It is the Limited Deck Battle hosted to you by TAC, and this stream is brought to you by Double Sleeved. Today we've got Gary and myself, Ryan, here to give you all the goodness from Table 1. Gary, how you doing today?
Yeah, going really well. I'm really keen to get this first event underway. Obviously, a new TCG is coming out to the world. One Piece is a massive franchise. I've already been in some local tournaments at my local game store, but to see a big event actually here online presented by Tech Games, I'm really keen to get this underway.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute awesome event. You know, we saw the registration go up a couple of weeks before today, and just how quickly those numbers flew up. The event was capped at 256. We haven't been able to see how many players are actually in the game today, but I do know that there was a couple of tickets floating around and things like that. So we'll definitely find out how many people actually are playing today. But, you know, I expect it to be a massive event.
I've just had confirmation from tournament organizer for today. We have a total of 205 participants in today's event. So massive numbers considering this game hasn't really officially launched. We've just had the super pre-release events and already we're seeing really big numbers for essentially a starter deck battle, but some great prizes up for grabs today too.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, everyone playing today is, you know, using the super pre-release decks, which, you know, if people are in the game already, they would know that these events were limited around Australia. They were difficult to get into, you know, to be able to get more than one, even to have a full deck, because some of these decks have, you know, only 2 copies of staple SRs and things like that. So it's amazing to see just how limited these events were. And, you know, obviously 205 people were able to get to them. It just shows that once set 1 comes out in December, I expect, you know, our events to be even bigger than what today's is.
Let's have a look at it. So obviously today we've got, these are limited deck battles. So what cards are actually legal for today's event?
So you've got all the cards from the super pre-release decks, as well as the cards that came in the promo packs. The demo decks were not legal for today.
Right, so not going to see any of that multicolor red, green, Luffy today, but still being able to actually build the decks around actually slamming 2 star decks together is going to be really interesting. What have we got up here for round 1? Who have we got?
We've got double Croc, so 2 blue. Going against each other. We can see the player on the right setting up their Don, but both players are playing blue, and a deck that I think a lot of people are bringing today to kind of counter green. We see those 1-drop blockers hitting the board on the player on the left. Really good just to be able to get that lore out. There's a lot of ways to recycle lore, and it's just a great way to utilize that Don on turn 1. Since both players aren't able to attack. So we'll see what player on the right doesn't seem to have anything to play. They've passed it back over. For those that don't know, you start on turn 1 with 1 Don, and then both players from every turn after will get 2 Don that turn. And we're seeing 3 energy, Sentomaru coming down, an absolute awesome card for blue. For those that don't know what this card does, so it's a character card with 4,000 power, Don 1, so if you have a Don underneath it, you can do the activate main once per turn, 2 generic energy, so you rest the 2, and you get to play a Pacifista with a cost of 4 or less from the deck.
What we'll try and do as well, because obviously this is a fresh game, so we'll go through a few of the game mechanics as it's happening. It's a very interesting game. If you played any other Bandai games, I would say it's probably a cross between what you'll see in Digimon and Dragon Ball Super. Would you agree it's probably a fusion of both?
Yeah, definitely. You know, you've got some mechanics from both with the life mechanics taken from Digimon, you know, being able to trigger and reveal and things like that. The countering, which is comboing in Dragon Ball, but there are some slight differences to the mechanic. We've seen a lot of the skills also come over from Dragon Ball, and I'm not too sure if they're in Digimon as well, but a couple of different name changes and things like that, but a good combination of both. Here we see player on the right playing the Bartholomew. So on play, you get to look at the top 3 cards, rearrange them to any order, and then put them at the top or bottom, whichever one you choose. So player on the left definitely set up a bit better with that Sentomaru out. Just being able to play a 4-drop, 6,000 power battle card from your deck for 3 energy is just so much value.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way this game works, you really want to have that board presence. Obviously, blockers are really important, especially this early when there aren't too many cards available. But being able to get a wide board and swing really hard, really fast, because we have summoning sickness in this game, essentially. So when you play a card, it can't attack the same turn unless it has rush, which we only really see at the moment, I believe, in the Luffy deck.
Yeah, there's a couple of cards. There's a purple Kaido that you can play for 9 energy that gains rush. So a couple of, it seems like that skill will be in other colors, but it is primarily in red. We can see the player asking how many cards in hand. You know, Gary and I, we both come from Dragon Ball where you're easily sitting at 10 plus cards. So making that transition into One Piece where you're dealing with a smaller deck, smaller hand size. You know, your counters are more important, your blockers are more important, and things like that. And your life's more important, obviously. You can be in critical range at any point of the game once you get down to, you know, all your life is taken. You do need to deal an additional life once that last life is taken, which is a mechanic that has come from Digimon.
It's a very different resource management based game. Obviously, being able to still have that combo power, but you can't buff your attacks as much as you would normally. So you have to put your Don underneath the card if you're going to, as we're seeing here, player on the left, putting your Don underneath, giving that card plus 1,000 power for the turn. So it's a very different resource management based game.
Yeah, paying the 2, playing the Pacifista out. So Pacifista won't be able to attack. Sentomaru can attack, but he'll probably leave that in active mode just to protect it so that he can continue to recycle these Pacifistas and start chipping away at his opponent. Croc, also the leader, has quite a interesting activate main. So once per turn, you're able to -4 Don, so you return them back to your Don deck, and you can return a character 5 or less to the owner's hand. So it has some built-in removal, which is really good. We see swing leader into leader, opponent on the right deciding whether they want to counter. You really do want to stay at that high life early on when, you know, these attacks are 5,000 and things like that, and they only cost 1 card to get out of. As we get later on into the game and people start having more Don to play with, you can put them underneath and start swinging, you know, 7, 8, 9,000. It becomes a lot more difficult to counter out.
With that leader ability, can you remove Don that's in rest mode, or does it have to be active mode Don to use that skill?
They can be in rest mode, yeah, they can be. My understanding is that they can also be from Don underneath character cards because they are still on the field. Perhaps someone will be able to confirm that, but that's my understanding. And we see player on the right use what is essentially a super counter, I guess. A lot of the counters in this game have 1,000 power, but that 4-drop character card that they just used has 2,000. So definitely want to, you know, use those wisely. And we see the Sentomaru is now gone. So my understanding is that they've used the counter card. I believe it's Thrust Pad Cannon, which returns a 3-cost back to the owner's hand. So the player on the left still does have the Sentomaru, but they'll have to replay it if they want to continue using that effect. But a good use of counters from player on the right to get out of the attack and then remove something that's causing them a bit of problems.
Definitely removes that threat, but also you know that can come straight back down at you next turn. So it's one of those, it's handy bit of defensive maneuver, but you know, we'll see how it goes in the long run if your player on the left is going to be playing that again next turn and being able to keep getting more of those 4-cost 6,000 power cards out.
Yeah, exactly. I have played a bit of blue myself, and especially into green, which is probably like the boogeyman of this kind of format at the moment. And the problem was that I was just bouncing these cards back to their hand. They could continue playing them, and eventually I just ran out of bounce abilities. But we see player on the right putting 2 Don underneath to be able to swing at their leader for 5,000. So in this game, the attacker wins if you're at equal power as well, and player on the left has taken that damage.
This is where we're going to start to see this pressure coming on. So you really don't want to wait too long, because as soon as you start getting a lot of these Don to play multiple battle cards, that's when you're going to see big boards starting to form. So it's good defending your life early, but you're going to want to put some pressure on at some point.
Yeah, definitely. And blue has a lot of blockers and things that bounce. Pacifista is a great card that is just 6,000 power. It's a skillless, but you can just constantly just swing and either force two cards out of their hand, a super counter as I'm referring them, or you're dealing damage. Whereas a lot of the other cards, you're going to be keeping them in active mode. You're going to be blocking and utilizing their effects, like the SR Croc that can... I believe it's bottom deck a 2 or less character card on block if it has a Don underneath. But we see player on the right just deciding how they want to utilize their turn. They've attacked once before playing anything, which is really good. You don't want to be playing all your battle cards and then start attacking, because if you reveal a trigger and it bounces your cards back, well, then it just feels really bad.
Yeah, especially when you're going up against something like blue that's really good for removal.
Yeah, absolutely. But we see the Marshal the Teach come down. So 4 energy, 4,000 power. On play, return a character 3 or less to the owner's hand. So we see that blocker get brought back to the player on the left's hand. And it's back to their turn.
That's it. Let's see what happens. So 2 Don at the start of the turn. So really building up now. Where are we at? We're up to 7 Don.
Yep. And we can do some big plays with 7 energy.
Oh, there's that really big rare.
Yeah, the Don Flamingo.
Yeah, really, really good card in blue.
Yeah, definitely. If you have that 7 Don available and you're not really in any kind of threat of taking a lot of damage the following turn, it's a great card just to be able to slam down 7,000 power on play, return a 7 or less to opponent's hand, which is really good against things like red and green, where they've got a lot of big character cards that deal a lot of damage. But we see what blue does best. Centaumaru comes down again. We activate the effect immediately. We get another Pacifista. We're getting another 6,000 for... Well, we've spent 5 energy, but the Centaumaru will stay. And we're not using cards from hand. We can keep those for counters. We can just keep our hand size. Opponent on the right has only 3 cards. And we'll probably start clearing board here, I'd imagine. You don't want to, let them have too wide of a board where they can start, just putting Don underneath and get multiple swings. So establishing who we're attacking. It's 5,000 into the battle card, and Bartholomew is gone.
Yeah, as opposed to bouncing it back to the hand, removing the pressure from the board, might as well get rid of that pressure early.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to be giving them things that they can replay, things that they can counter with. But we see a 6,000 attack into leader, and first damage is dealt to the player on the right. So today is best of 3 as well, which is going to be interesting. Being a new game, people are learning the cards, people are learning how to play the mechanics in a high stress environment, especially as you get into the later rounds where every decision is crucial. It'll be interesting to see whether we're able to get those 3 games finished, if people go to time, just to be able to see how the game flows.
And is there a side deck option in this game?
I don't believe in this kind of format there is. I'd have to double check whether, once set 1 comes out, whether you do have the ability to sideboard. Are you familiar with Digimon, whether you can sideboard?
No, I'll be honest. I'm not sure if they do. I know they had mulligan options, but I haven't played much Digimon since set 1.
Yeah, I never really got into it either. But in Dragon Ball, you do have that 15 card sideboard that in between games you can utilize and kind of change up your main deck to suit what you're playing against. So it'll be interesting to see whether that option does flow into the events once set 1 comes out and we start seeing more events and locals and things like that, regionals. But it's a great way to kind of counter those troublesome matchups after game 1. We see a lot of players and a lot of high-level players that can lose game 1, go to their sideboard, and then bounce back game 2 and 3.
And this is going to be one of the more stally matchups, being blue versus blue, so it's removal versus removal. It's probably going to be one of the stalliest matchups out of all the battles that we have today.
Yeah, and I do expect to see a bit of blue. Blue and green are kind of the 2 decks that I think will be the most represented today. Red probably being the least, just because we've seen with the super pre-releases, just how strong green was out of the gate. There was a lot of talk about purple being really strong, and it is a good deck, but green was just that little bit faster, that little bit more aggressive. And then players started to figure out that blue had some interesting mechanics, and it could definitely keep up with green, and some strong cards that could come down and just kind of remove their board. We see Sentamaru come down on the player on the right, so now we're a little bit behind, deciding not to play it. They're going to attack first for 5,000, assuming into the leader.
Watching out for those triggers if he does hit something from life. Like you were saying before, you don't want to put that pressure on and then end up losing the battle card you just played because you've triggered something off life.
Exactly, yeah. And then all of a sudden you're behind. We see player on the left has got a great board established at the moment. That Pacifista is, can be attacked into, but you've got the blocker available. It's 6,000 power, so the opponent's going to have to put Don underneath to even try and deal damage. If they, start putting 2 or 3 Don underneath, you can just easily block. But going to activate the Pacifista, I assume here. The Sentamaru, sorry. Yeah, so paying the 2, searching the deck. Giving us a show of what's in the blue decks. And Pacifista will play.
And this is where, because there is a lot less draw power than what you see in some other Bandai card games, really knowing what's in your deck and when to make these plays is important. You're not also going to see every single card in your deck the way that it is. So being able to have those cards that can play straight from deck is absolute value.
Absolutely, yeah. And it does become a bit more difficult when you start getting these Pacifistas in hand. When you search the deck once and you can see that they're in life and things like that, you do need to be more cautious. So it's definitely a good kind of strategy to, once you activate that effect, count how many are in your deck. Okay, I've got 2, I can do this effect 2 more times, things like that, just to know where your cards are and, what you can and can't do. But we're going to swing 6,000 on the leader. Just seeing where this attack's going.
So probably trying to remove that other threat. No, going straight for life.
Yep, they're not too worried. And we see a trigger. So the blocker 3-drop coming down. It's the Boa Hancock. Just having those blockers available and being able to play them off the triggers is always really good. It's not one you want to be playing 3 energy for. You want to be playing the Law for 1 energy, but just having that blocker. Also worth noting, in this card game, you can only have 5 character cards out on the field at any one time. So player on the left is now capped. If they want to play another character card, they have to choose one on the field and send it to the drop, and then they can play that 5th card.
Yeah, really interesting choice to play that blocker out. It makes me wonder what potential plays he has in hand, because by playing that, you've limited now the characters that you can have out in play. So has he just burnt his place by having that blocker? Yes, it's going to defend, but you've also lost that pressure that you could potentially put on yourself. So probably thinking he's not going to be able to go anywhere near close to game this turn, and setting up for a more defensive play the following turn.
I think also being a trigger as well, you kind of do want to activate it. I don't see the situation where you're going to play 3 energy for this card. Just being able to play it for free, get it on the board, swing with your Pacifista, and then if you want to play another one, you just remove the one that you've already attacked with. And it does limit, I guess, the offensive capabilities, but just having the 2 blockers is really good as well. We see that first attack go into the life. We'll probably see one trying to remove this Bartholomew.
Also at a point where almost at maximum Don, so at 9 Don here, and realistically, all you're going to do is buff your attacks going through, so could put themselves in a very good position right now.
Yeah, absolutely. If you continue to push against this leader, get them down to 1 life, 2 life, then your next turn you can really go in with some of these even smaller battle cards like Sentamaru, which is only 4,000. You start putting 6 Don underneath it, and that's a 10,000 power battle card or character card.
We've got Terry, player on the right. He's hidden his leader and his Don. He's trying to hide him so he doesn't take any more damage, I think.
can't deal damage if it's in the Don area. Looks to be quite a young player as well, so it's great to see, you know, people of all ages getting into this card game. We've seen people from Dragon Ball come over, people from Digimon come over. You know, I've seen a couple of people from Yu-Gi-Oh that are interested in this card game. So it's just amazing to see everyone come together for one card game and, you know, just share that love for a new TCG, be in it from the beginning, play these events. It's really exciting.
Absolutely. And One Piece being one of the biggest franchises in the world, it's just been so popular. I've had so many people talk to me about it, and everyone's really keen to see this game succeed. And you can just tell right off the bat, the prize support for this event is amazing. You've got a promotional Luffy card that's has a serial number stamped on it. So there's limited numbers available. You know they're going to be something that's sought after by collectors. They're really targeting collectors and players early on in this game.
Yeah, capped at 400 of the copies of those cards. I'll be curious to see whether the number 1 serial number gets given out for this event. They know that everyone's going to be, all those collectors are going to be chasing that number 1. Do they hold it for something like a Nationals later on? Because they have said that these cards will be available through other events as well. Or does the winner of today take that number 1?
Oh, I'd like to just say to all of our friends at Bandai, the team here at Double Sleeve would love to have number 1.
There's 3 of us, so we might need to get 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, I think we can fight over who gets which one.
So we see the promo Croc come down. Now, these promo packs were kind of difficult to come by. You had to play in the Super Pre-Release as well, but I believe everyone got one, which had 1 copy of 5 different cards, 2 red, and then 1 for each color. So not an easy card to come by in larger quantities, but it's a blocker. If you have 1 Don underneath it, you can play it for 4 and it's 5,000 power. So it only has the blocker if you have the Don underneath, which is a bit of a strange effect. You know, you're punished to kind of have that blocker skill, since you're not gaining the 1,000 power on your opponent's turn, and you're losing 1 Don to utilize just to give this card blocker.
They're definitely hard to get promos, so the people who have managed to get to all these pre-release, like, well done.
Absolutely.
Getting into a pre-release and then getting the promotional cards that you need to play in today's event. I know you got 1 for participation, and then I believe there was also 1 if you managed to get the demo deck, which was the multicolor Luffy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those demo decks did also come with one of the packs, which stores were giving out just as like introductions to the game. There was a store ran at PAX, where we were running those demos for One Piece as well. The players were able to get a demo deck and one of those promo packs. So there's been a lot of promotion for this game, which is, you know, kind of led up to these numbers for this event. You know, it's not something that people weren't aware of. We've seen the posts, we've seen the cards now, we've seen how well it's done in Japan, and it's great to see it on our shores as well. Player on the right, they've got the max 10 Don at the moment. They've got a blocker on the field, Pacifista and Sentamaru, but they're down to 2 life. We see the board on the player on the left's capped still. They've got the 2 6,000 Pacifista, and next turn they're really going to be able to put a lot of pressure on our opponent here. It's difficult to say what you should do from the player on the right. Do you start trying to bounce back these threats, or do you continue to push into lead?
I think at the moment, like, you got maximum Don, you definitely want to use that leader ability, because you're not going to be able to get that. You'll be able to get the Don back next turn anyway. So you'll go, yes, you'll lose 4, but you'll go down, you'll be back up to 8 the following turn. He needs to start removing this pressure, because if he doesn't, then he's going to put himself in a really bad spot. And at the moment, it looks like the player on the left is sitting pretty comfortable at the moment. Yeah,
they've got the 2 blockers out. It looks as though player on the right may have put 4 Don underneath their leader, making it 9,000. We've got the leader tucked away underneath the Don, but they're deciding what they want to do with this turn, how they want to start. You know, do they want to start trying to swing into these Pacifistas, get these blockers off the field, and then start bouncing cards from there?
Having the low hand size, it looks like he's got about 4 cards in hand, so limited options. I think Probably what I will be looking to do first is trying to remove one of those 4 costs from the field. Start swinging into it and see where you sit after the end of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you can start swinging, get these blockers off, and then start using your bounce effects to remove the pacifistas, because if they want to play them again, it's going to cost them 4 energy. They're not going to be able to attack with it the turn that it's come down, as opposed to, you know, bouncing these blockers, and then you're forced to swing into the pacifista and they can counter out. We don't really want that situation.
Absolutely.
But we see another pacifista hitting the field, so they're still continuing to go wide before they start their turn and start attacking.
Upside down sleeves. It doesn't hurt my OCD at all.
Master Ball sleeves as well, so definitely a big Pokemon fan. We see it on the shirt as well.
It's actually that shining Eevee or Radiant Eevee is actually it's a really nice playmat. They're super smooth the way that they've done them.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the playmat as well. We see player on the left with a Yu-Gi-Oh playmat, so it's a battle of the franchises here.
That's it.
All we need is a bit of Dragon Ball thrown in, and they've got the big 4.
But this is what's great about the game as well. You can see we've clearly got someone who's a fan of Pokemon jumping into One Piece. You've got someone who's a fan of Yu-Gi-Oh, non-Bandai related games, and wanting to jump in and have a piece of this.
Yeah, absolutely. When you have such a smooth kind of game mechanics-wise, especially, you know, it is early on as well. There's not that many skills and things like that, but just the way that they've designed this game has kind of fixed some of the problems that we've seen with Dragon Ball and things like that, like your energy system. You know, going first in Dragon Ball is such an advantage, just being able to constantly have that 1 extra energy above your opponent, whereas they've fixed that in this game. You're both adding 2 each turn, so you're one-upping each other until you get to that cap of 10. To me, I think that it was beautifully designed, this Don system. Being able to use it to play cards, being able to use it to power up cards, it adds another level of strategy to the game. Player on the right's really having a tough time deciding what they want to play, what they want to attack, you know, what the biggest threat on the board is right now. And it probably is these pacifistas that are constantly just putting pressure on your opponent. They've got 2 already on the field. You have 2 as well, but only one of them can attack.
I think this just shows how bad a spot he's in, and obviously we can't see his hand, but if he's in this place where he has to think this much to get through which attacks he's going to do, probably sweating a little bit.
Yeah. We're swinging with the Centaumaru for 6,000, assumably into one of the character cards. We see the blocker, and that's an easy block right there. Good that the player decided to go to that 6,000. You know, you don't want to be keeping it at 5. Allow the block on the Croc battle card, and then they can counter and keep it alive and things like that. So it's good to go to that 6,000, and you know that they're going to block. So we'll just force that 1 less card on the field. Having a real tough time. Both players don't have large hand sizes. Player on the left, I think, does have maybe about 5, possibly 6 cards, and just patiently waiting for the turn to come back to them so they can keep putting on pressure, keep the opponent on the right playing their game. Because right now, player on the left has control. You know, they're that turn ahead, and they're forcing the player on the left to make the decisions rather than the other way around.
I definitely noticed playing the green deck, the draw engine in that is so much better. So I managed to get pretty decent hand sizes, and that helped me stay in games as soon as people didn't realise the pieces they had to remove to stop me from drawing cards.
Yeah, being able to play that Bonnie, switch to rest and search the top 5. Search and draw effects right now are obviously incredibly good. Just being able to have more cards, more decisions, and being able to have more kind of options available to be able to play.
That's your hot tip for the round. If Bonnie's out and in rest mode, swing for days.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You definitely want to be clearing that Bonnie as early as you can.
I think I managed to have one out for about 4 turns.
Wow, yeah. And
So,
that's a lot of cards in this game. You know, when we look at these players' hands with 3 or 4 cards, if you're able to double that hand size, it's a big difference. We've seen one swing. We've seen a blocker removed. Still not too sure about what the next play is here. Players do need to be cautious about time as well. It's something that you need to keep in the back of your mind. You know, if game 1 takes 40 minutes and you've only got 20 minutes left and you're down, you know, it can be difficult to come back from there.
Definitely think he's at a point where he just can't decide what he's going to do to stop this pressure next turn.
seeing the next swing now.
Yep, it's going to be Pacifista. Choosing not to power it up. Just a simple 6k, and yep, player on the left does have 4 cards. So comfortable to take the life and getting another trigger effect. So that one is Sable. So trigger, activate this main effect, which is return 1 character with a cost of 7 or less to the owner's hand.
Oof.
Yep. So we can remove that Pacifista that's still in active mode, and that's what they're going to do. So that goes back to hand. Oh, not to the drop area. Yep. Nope. It goes back to hand.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like the player on the left told them.
Yeah, perfect.
Correct game state. That's what we want to see. And that kind of shows the strength of these trigger effects as well. You know, how crucial it can be. It can put you behind even more. It can give you the advantage just by 1 card coming off your life. Some of them have amazing trigger effects that can really turn the tide of battle.
I think that that trigger effect really cemented where the game state is at the moment.
Definitely. You've limited the character cards on the field. Terry wasn't able to attack with that Pacifista this turn, but now if they want to play it again, they're going to have to pay for. They're not going to be able to use it from the Centimaro effect, since it's not in the deck anymore either. A really amazing kind of trigger card.
I think probably the best thing he can do at the moment is look at trying to remove a few more pieces by using that leader ability, and then passing turn. Otherwise, it's almost scoop phase and into game 2.
Yeah, it looks like they did attack with their leader, and I believe the player on the left has countered with Love Love Mellow, which gives the character 4,000 power for the battle for 2 Don, and if you have 3 or less cards in hand, you get to draw a card. So a great card that if you have 3 cards in hand, just be able to counter, get that 4,000, and then draw another card as well. Looks like we're just tidying up the game state here. Or they're going to use their activate main. Yeah, they're going to use the leader effect, remove the 4 Don, and bounce back one of those Pacifistas.
Good move.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a pass turn there, so drawing for turn.
Yeah. And Terry's left a lot of Don in active mode as well. Blue has some great counters that can bounce back 3 costs or less, that can, you know, give you that 4,000 power, but it's at a cost of cards in hand. You know, besides that Love Love Mellow, which can draw you another card, those counters can easily dwindle down your hand. Does player on the left here continue to put pressure on that leader, or do they just swing board and then put player on the right in a position where they just don't have anything to attack with and can't really hit you on the clapback?
I think it's the only way forward right now is to start swinging with what you've got there. Hope that your opponent doesn't have an event card. I'll start swinging with probably my highest power card first, because that way at least we're going to have a better chance of pushing your damage and it's not going to be bounced back to my hand.
Yeah. I think I'd swing... I think you start swinging with the Centimaro and the Croc this turn as well. They don't have that many cards in hand. You know, you can really put them down to a position where they're at no life and are forced to get out of the attack, or they just have to remove their whole hand.
Absolutely, and I'll go in with the leader last, being the fact that it can't be removed from any bounce effect. So get rid of the 2 life that are currently sitting there, dump the rest of your Don underneath your leader, and swing for days.
Absolutely, and that's the great thing about these Don effects is that even if you have no cards in hand, you can still get a massive swing off your leader, being able to swing a max of 15,000. You know, to put that into perspective, you would need 16 1,000 counter cards to get out of that attack. Oh, sorry, no, you would need 11,000 counter cards to get out of that attack.
You've got the block coming in there,
Yeah.
stopping the first attack. Smart choice. Still 4 Don, I believe it is in active mode.
Yeah. We see the 1 Don under the Centamaru, and we're going to start swinging with it. Potentially into the opponent's Centamaru. Yeah, looks like it is. We're going to get that off the field.
Not going for game this turn. He's going to remove the threats.
Yeah, yep. And I can definitely see why. We're still going to force cards out of hand. We still have cards that can bounce back. And we see the thrust pad cannon. So this is a counter. You pay 2 and you bounce back a 3 cost or less to hand. So that attack is now finished. The player on the left, Centamaru, is back to hand. Don goes back in rest mode. And Terry's Centamaru lives to see another day.
It just shows smart play by the player on the left, knowing what can be removed. The fact that he swung with the 3 cost first, the 4 cost is going to be sitting pretty safe.
Yeah. And to be honest, I probably would have swung with the Pacifista before... with the Centamaru before the Pacifista. Because if they had have activated that thrust pad cannon on the Pacifista attack, well then you simply just lose the Centamaru. You don't even get the attack. But it's good to be able to bait them into that play, force them to attack with it, and then bounce it back.
And we see the Centamaru coming back down again.
Yeah, they really want to keep it on the field. Such a great card for blue.
I can't remember how many of the Pacifista that we've actually seen this game for the player on the left, because I know he's had at least 2 out, but how many have been bounced back to hand? How many have been played from deck?
I believe we've seen 3 in total. I think 1's been bounced back to hand. Possibly only 2, actually. Maybe we've only seen 2, and that the second one was the one that was bounced. But we see for 4 energy, the Marshall DT has come back down. Yep. So bounce the 3 cost back to hand. And we're probably going to see the -4 effect just to remove this Pacifista as well. And we're limiting our opponent to just their leader attack the following turn. If they want to play cards, they're not going to be able to attack. We're going to have a wide board. You can put one of your attacks into the Pacifista if you want to, but Centamaru, Croc, and Marshall are sticking around.
I think really smart play, and honestly, the best thing to do, in my opinion, would be just -4 off your leader skill. Get rid of that threat, because you don't really want to be swinging with these guys, having them to be able to be targeted by the leader.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And you've got the blocker available in the Croc. Player Terry's, in a pretty difficult situation to come back from here. Player on the left is really taking control. Are we seeing a swing here with leader for 6,000? Most likely into the Pacifista. You either lose it or you counter out and then you just -4 and remove it regardless. So this way we are removing a card from hand. And we do see that Love Mellow come down. 2 Don. And it gets +4,000. We still have more than 3 cards in hand, so we're not going to get to draw. And we're going to attack with the Croc, with the blocker. So 6,000 into the Pacifista. Continue to remove cards from their hand if they want to keep it alive. I dare say by the end of this turn, that Pacifista is not going to be on board, whether it goes to the drop or back to hand. At this point, we're just putting the pressure on our opponent.
And losing a card in hand.
Yeah. Looks like we're not going to see the -4. So they're going to leave the Pacifista on the field. Perhaps they've got the Don Flamingo in hand and they want to utilize their energy and for counters and things like that the following turn. But deciding not to remove it. I mean, you're tapped out. Like you said, you're going to send 4 back. You're going to get another 2 your following turn. I definitely think that you'd be doing the minus there. And now Terry's got 2 attacks as opposed to 1.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is potentially you want to take damage so that you have hands in your hand as a resource. But, I mean, realistically, I think he's in such a comfortable spot. I would have probably thought removing that threat would have been better.
I agree, yeah. I don't see a situation where you want to take those lives down when you can just simply put all your Don under your leader, and if you don't have enough counter, well, you're just GG's. And blockers are quite easily removed in blue. Your leaders activate main, you've got event cards that can remove it and things like that, so you do need to be cautious. Player on the right, Terry, again, in that decision-making phase, you know, what do I attack with first? What do I play first? Looks like they've got 6 Don to play with. And just having a difficult time.
You got to remember, like, the first time you're playing in one of these really big tournaments, obviously we've had the Super pre-release, but this is for big prizing. People are going to make mistakes. They're still learning the game. It's a very fresh game.
Yeah, and we did see that just in like the Discord chat before. There's still rulings that people are figuring out and interactions, and there's probably interactions that we haven't seen yet, which is exciting. You know, I'd love to see some of the other colors go up against each other. You know, mirror matches can always be a bit of a grind fest. You both know what cards each other have. Going first is kind of a bit more of a advantage since you can play some of your bigger energy cards first. Yeah, so hopefully we do get a wide range of colors. I do expect green and blue to be the most prevalent, but I'd love to see some purple. Purple's such an interesting color. You know, being able to ramp and minus Don for effects and things like that. We've got red with all its abilities to put rested Don underneath cards. It has a lot of rush. It can be very aggressive, but doesn't have much defense. And then we've got green, just the absolute all-rounder. It's aggressive. It's got great defensive cards. It's got great event cards like... I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but you can rest a blocker or a character card. Straw Sword, there it is.
Looking through the drop area, wants to know what's been played, what hasn't. It's one of the things that are a bit more challenging with these online plays. Having a look at the time left in round, we're currently sitting just under 19 minutes to go. So it's been a very long match.
Yeah, and most likely whoever takes this game will take a 1-0 victory just by the amount of time that's gone into it. And it's a tough game. Blue versus blue is always really difficult. You know, we've seen in other card games as well. It's always a bit more defensive. Generally has a lot of blockers and counters and things like that. So really kind of you have to utilize your cards and your Don even more than your opponent does. You got to get the value. You got to see the cards. Player on the left really took that early advantage, getting the Centomaro down on 3 and just being able to constantly play these pacifistas out, swing with them first, and just keep Terry's board in check.
I think this is where the timer is really going to play into effect for this game. Like you said, we're probably going to have a 1-0 match. Really viable strategy in TCGs as well is if you're in a bad spot, sometimes you're better off to scoop and reset.
Absolutely,
and go for that. You'll be better off going for the 1-1 draw as opposed to the 1-0.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that comes with time as well. Playing a competitive card game, realizing when you're behind and when you're too far behind to come back. You know, there's times when you're in a game and you are behind and you can clinch out a victory if you see the right cards. It's about knowing, okay, if no matter what I draw at this point, I can't come back from here. Let's go to game 2.
Or hopefully really godly top deck.
Yeah, exactly. And it does happen, but sometimes it's just not there. Player on the right, yeah, just going through.
4 Don.
Yeah. We've seen a Centomaru, I believe, bounce back to their hand. And we haven't seen many blockers come down for player on the right. But there's the Centauro again, coming back down.
3 energy.
Yep. If they want to play a Pacifista out, it's going to cost them another 3. 1 under Centauro, and then 2 for the effect, which it looks like they're going to do. Yep, just forgot to pay the 2. I'm sure their opponent will remind them. Searching the deck.
How many more have we got to go?
Yeah. I think we've seen 3 for Terry. But we've just seen just how important Pacifista has been for this deck.
It's definitely the main pressure engine of the blue starter deck.
Yeah, it is. Exactly. Centauro is what it gives the offensive capabilities to this deck. A lot of the other big cards, they've got blocker, and you want to keep them in active mode. You want to keep them around, attack with them when you need, but Pacifista is what you want to be using to put pressure on your opponent.
We've seen the leader swing into Crocodile there to remove that threat from the board.
Yep. And Croc being a 5k, it's easy to remove. It just needs 1 leader swing. It doesn't need to be powered up. But opponent on opponent on the left is happy to remove that Croc and go back to their turn. They're still at 2 life, and now we probably start swinging face.
So really interesting seeing that low hand size. I believe he's only got 4 cards in hand, tapping 5 Don, 6, 7 Don. We know what's coming out
Don
here.
Flamingo, there it is.
It's the big guy. Going to be bouncing back. Is it the 3 cost that bounces back?
7 or less.
7 or less. So
So
removing threats really easily.
In this format, I think there's only 1 card that this Don Flamingo can't bounce back, and that's the 9-drop Kaido. I believe every other card, or every other character card, can be bounced by this card. And perhaps this is why we didn't see the -4 last turn. Perhaps they were confident that they could survive, not take too much life, and then play this for 7 and still leave that 3 energy for counters and things like that, as opposed to doing the -4, going to 8, and leaving yourself with only 1.
That's right. Like you got the ability now, so got obviously 3 Don up. You can utilize that for event cards. You can use it to buff your leader if you're going in for that kill.
Yeah. And I think another important part of this game is just utilizing that Don as well. You don't want to be leaving it in active mode if you don't have cards to play, if you don't have any event cards and things like that. You're better off powering up your cards and pushing that damage. Of course, if you do have the event cards, then you want to be leaving it in active mode, but just utilizing the Don, knowing how much you can leave in active mode, how much attacks are coming in the following turn, and we see a 6,000 power leader swinging into that Croc, forcing two cards for counter to avoid that damage, and leaving Terry with only 2 cards in hand. Now, both attackable character cards only have 4,000 power. If they do want to push for damage, they're going to have to put Don underneath, but we're seeing the -4 here.
Yeah,
in a comfortable position. Putting the 4 back. I assume bouncing back to Pacifista. There it is. Back to hand. If you want to play it, it's going to cost you 4. You're not going to be able to attack with it. How many Pacifistas do you have left in the deck? That's the question.
I've got to say as well, I really like the clear sleeves on the Don deck because the back of these cards look fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe each card has a different back. So the Don,
correct.
the leader, and the character cards, I understand, all have a different background, so they're easily distinguishable. Talking about sleeves, I believe there's some participation Don sleeves that get given out to all the players that play for 3 rounds, which is great, as long as a deck box and some of the promo packs that we were talking about before.
Yeah, the pricing for this event is really, really good.
Yeah, and just having that winner card on the line, it's what everyone's chasing.
Absolutely.
Terry needs to make a comeback here. You're running out of time. You're running out of cards. You've got all the Don in the world to play what you need. Looks like they're counting how many pacifistas they we know that one was bounced back. There's 3 in the drop area, so you've got none left in deck. Player on the left is just texting his friends. Yep.
Feeling pretty comfortable right now. 2 Don up. Happy days.
Yeah. See you guys in round 2. So we're expecting 7 rounds for today, based on the amount of players. And for those that don't know, just the time rules for One Piece as well. So if time is called, I believe they have 5 minutes to resolve 3 turns. Whoever's turn it is at the time then becomes turn 0. If after that 5 minutes there still isn't a clear result, then they look at life first. Player with the most life then wins the game. If you're equal, then it goes to cards in deck. The player with the most cards in deck then wins the game. And if you're both equal, again, they've asked to use just kind of like a randomized way to resolve a winner, whether that's rock, paper, scissors, you roll the dice, whatever it may be, which is an interesting way to win a game if you're going rock, paper, scissors.
And that timer is still counting down. We're down to 10 minutes left in this round, not including time on.
Yep, so that clock is dwindling down. We see the thrust pad cannon, and that Centauro is bounced back to hand, leaving Terry with 1 attack for this turn, which is now going to be their leader. In a difficult spot here. You're very, very far behind, and you've got some big threats swinging at you next turn. The only way to remove this Don Flamingo is to play a Don Flamingo itself, but it's going to cost you 7. Just deciding what they want to do before they commit to tapping this 4 energy. They're going to do it. They're not going to do it. Just really unsure where to take this turn. How much to leave up. Putting the 2 Don underneath the leader. We're swinging, we've committed, and a quick life take there. They know that they're not going to die this turn. Oh, perhaps not. Yep, there it is, okay.
There's a quick rewind so we can do a double take.
Yeah. Both players just unsure of their decisions. And looks like we're going to pay for Do the Sable, which is a event card. So return a 7 or less to the owner's hand. Interesting that they decided to bounce the Pacifista back as opposed to the Don Flamingo. Both of those cards don't have any other effects on play or while they're on the field. You'd want to be removing the 7,000 power as opposed to the 6.
Yeah, need to use 1 to 2 cards in hand to stop that attack from going through. Actually, we need at least 2, unless you can bounce it with an event card. Only 2 Don left in active mode, though.
Yep. And all of the counter event cards in blue do cost you 2 Don as well, so only 1 of those available. They may have that Love machine in hand to get the 4,000 to draw a card if they have 3 cards in hand, which looks like they have 4. We can get a bit of a peek into the opponent's hand there. We see the Pacifista.
We've got Flamingo swinging in direct at life.
For 7. Looks like they're going to counter out Centauro and... what's that other card there? It looks like it may be the Dracula Mihawk, which is 2,000 counter, bringing them up to 8. So we've seen 2 of those super counters come out for player on the right, and thrust pad cannon. So we're going to be tapped out. We've used all our Don here. Bounce the Centauro back, and swinging for 6,000 here with Marshall. Oop, we're going to have to take that life. Don't need a neg Don.
Rest of the Don on the floor.
Double tapped.
So not going to be able to go for the win, but putting themselves in a very comfortable position to go for it next turn.
Yeah.
You'll be thinking leaving the 4-Don active mode to defend against any threats next turn.
I'm surprised that they left it at 5.
Realistically, you've only got the leader swing coming in that's actually going to put any pressure on, so very comfortable. Tapping 4 now.
Yep, so that's for the Gecko Moria. So on play, you get to add a 7 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark Pirate type character, 4 or less, other than itself, back to hand. So you can get a blocker back, you can get a, some of the other crucial cards in this deck. But, I would have assumed that you'd put some Don under your leader. They've only got 2 cards in hand. They're tapped out. Push that last that life to their hand, and then you can close out the game next turn. As opposed to tapping 4, playing the Gecko Moria, you picked up the blocker, but the Lord doesn't have any counter. So it's not like you can really utilize that card, and you're going for game next turn. Do you really want to be playing any more blockers out?
No, I think if anything, you're going to be taking something to help defend. So you've obviously got Dracula. I'm not sure if he's got one in the drop area there. It gives you a 2,000 power, great defensive card in that position.
Yeah, we haven't seen any from player on the left, and we've seen 2 from player on the right.
So let's see what Terry can do here. It's going to be very little. 2 cards in hand.
Yep.
Buffing that leader.
Yep, just deciding how high you want to go. And, 7,000 and 9,000 in this game is a great number to swing at. Just because a lot of the counters, a lot of the event cards, will either give you 2,000 or 4,000. We've seen the cards that have 2,000 counter as well. So if you swing at 6, you can super counter, get out of the attack for 1 card. But when you start swinging with 7,000, you're forcing them to at least spend 3 or 2 cards. It's a kind of like a magic number to swing at when forcing cards out of your opponent's hand. But for re-establishing the Pacifista, 1 card in hand.
I think realistically at this point you want to be swinging to remove those potential threats. You're going to have no cards in hand if he's playing something else. It's essentially about what threats can I remove. But even then, when you do the math, it's pretty much looking like game over.
Yeah, a big swing on lead here. Looks like we're swinging for 11,000 into life. Happy to take that. You can't do any more damage to me this turn. At best, I don't know, it was into the Don Flamingo. But even still, you're happy to remove it. You've got 3 cards that you can attack with the following turn, unless we see a -4 here. Which...
Yeah, I'd say it should be the -4, but you still got 2 swings. You could almost put half your Don under one, half your Don under the other, and pretty much go for it.
Exactly. Terry's tapped out. That doesn't have any Don available. If you keep the Marshal on field, if you keep the Croc and divide that Don, that's a 9,000 swing and followed up by a 10,000 swing. There it is. There's the -4. Doing the activate main. Bounce the Gecko Moria back. And we're going to see a pass here. 1 card in hand. At best, you're going to get to 7,000.
And we've just under 3 minutes left in this round before time on. I'd say we're going to have a game 1 sorted out very soon.
Yep. Unless they can do game 2 and 3 in 3 minutes. It's not impossible.
Not impossible.
Unlikely.
But very unlikely.
Yeah. There it is. Doing the math. 5,000. So we're going to swing 9k here. Into lead. That last life will get taken. Followed up. We see the
blocker.
The Lord does not have the trigger, unfortunately. It's the Boa Hancock.
Would be so good if it did.
Imagine that. Yeah, that would be crazy. And that's game. There it is. A 1-0. It's the player on the left. We're not able to see their names, unfortunately. We've only got Discord names. Player on the left takes that win. And I assume that they probably won't play the game 2. They won't start it unless they're unsure of how much time is left. It's something that you need to be aware of. You don't really have any kind of idea of what the clock is until the judge pops in and says, hey, this is time. You've got 5 minutes left. It's up to you to keep an eye on the time. Player on the left has been on their phone a couple of times, so he probably has a pretty good idea of what the time is. But
we're just seeing whether he's jumping onto Bandai TCG or Tinder.
You see a Discord, probably blue too good, ban blue.
It's already started. This is a Bandai game.
Sensumaru broken. And yeah, I'm curious to see what the divide is on colors today. Whether we see one color dominate all throughout today, whether we see a mix. Players love Luffy as a character. They're gonna want to play red. Players love Kaido and Kid and everything like that. But Luffy is the main character. It wasn't the strongest in the super pre-release format, but it's a fan favorite. I'm sure we're gonna see at least a red deck on stream. Hopefully, we want to see it. We want to see a variety, and they're starting game 2.
Yeah, it looks like they're gonna go for it. May not be aware of how much time is left on the clock, but they're gonna play it out anyway. For those of you joining, obviously, thank you for joining the stream today. We're currently at 56 people viewing the stream, so thank you. For those who don't know us, we are Double Sleeve. We do content predominantly for Dragon Ball, jumping into One Piece, and we are fans of Bandai TCGs. Be sure to jump onto our Facebook page and like our page if you haven't already. We'll throw that in the comment section. But yeah, absolutely, jump onto our YouTube. We're going to have all these games up on YouTube too.
Yeah, exactly, and it gives people just another format to watch this card game. Thank you to TAC for letting us commentate as well. It's amazing to see the first event. Everyone's so excited. 205 players. We've got 56 people that weren't able to play watching. It's just incredible to see. And perhaps players now are realizing just how much time is left and whether they should start.
Both on the
time
phone.
has definitely been called. Yeah, probably reporting the results here.
I'll say we're now time around. Looks like they may not continue, or they're just adding each other on Facebook because this is a TCG where we're here to make friends.
Exactly, yeah, and it's been amazing to see people trading as well. Not getting the decks that they're able to. I was able to trade a open purple deck for an open green deck, and met this guy. He played Digimon, nice guy. Like it's a great way to meet people and interact over something that we all enjoy. We all have a common hobby.
That will bring us to the end of round 1 for this event. Obviously, both players now putting their results in, and then we'll be back soon with round 2.
Yep, and blue takes it.